Just what has prompted you to run for the mayoralty?
We've been involved in development for over 10 years now, in land development, and I've had a number of experiences with the council that just lead me to believe that there's a better way to run the business of council, and you know, we've seen some pretty remarkable things, and I feel in the Tasman, particularly in the Tasman region, the council's got offside with the residents a lot. And as they've got offside, they've withdrawn, which is a natural thing because they're getting attacked. And as they've withdrawn, you know, the old ghosting thing, as the community has felt more ghosted, they've become more hostile towards the council, and then the council's felt more attacked. And so it's just been a vicious cycle out there, and it's really diminished the relationship, and it's made it really hard to work proactively with the council out there because they're so angry all the time and so defensive because of the bad decisions that have been made at the top. And they're having to defend those. And so I just feel there's just a need for a massive culture change and hopefully a bit of direction change that will allow ratepayers to have some confidence that it's not going to become too expensive to live in the Tasman region.
And so why do you think council has got so offside with people? What do you think that's come from?
Well, I think it's come from a poor consultation process, but it hasn't. The poor consultation process was as a result of poor delivery in the first place. So what I mean by that is that you get an idea and you want to relate it to your community, and if you don't relate it properly, and we saw that with Three Waters with the government, you know, the government would argue that, and everybody's pretty much in agreement, that it wasn't delivered well to the regions, and so people got the sort of the wrong end of the stick, and then the hostilities start. And I'm not saying the right end or the wrong end with Three Waters, but that's what happened in Tasman. So I think it was just a series of miscommunications and poorly managed, you know, processes by the council, and then an unwillingness to accept responsibility and just to say, hey, we might have got that a bit wrong, let's see if we can get it right. You know, just a dogmatic insistence that they're absolutely right all the time. And I think the community's become completely exhausted with that. You know, we've had farmers running Tasman districts subsidising their farms with the mayoral rate since John Hurley in 1996. So since 1996, that's what we've had, and I think there needs to be a shift in focus. It's a business. It's dealing with huge amounts of money. It's dealing with a vast range of projects, and you know, I just don't know whether a farmer's qualifications cut it anymore, really, to run a business of that size.
And just refocusing slightly, but in terms of the recent weather event that's just happened, will that refocus any of your priorities going into council?
No, absolutely not. My priority going into council has been directly related to stormwater. My concerns around council activity in the Tasman region has related primarily solely to stormwater, and the balance of it has been around potable and blackwater septic. So as a developer, they're the things that I saw. So as a developer, the things that I saw drew my attention and got my attention and interest in local government, and that was stormwater. And I think that we're not managing stormwater in a way that is sustainable, you know. Like, I'm a capitalist. I also have an incredible interest in the planet, and I think to wash our streets and wash all the plastic and all the scunge off our streets and to put it into pipelines and then shoot it out into the Tasman Bay where it can join all the other plastic and go out and cause problems in the ocean, like, I think there's a better way now. So I think, you know, in my view, the better way to manage stormwater is to build big underground stormwater detention tanks and actually filter all the stuff out, filter it out and feed it back as potable water back to the community. So as the community grows, the hard stand grows, and so you put another 100 houses in, you've now got the collective effect of 100 houses of hard stand, because, you know, up to 70% of the construction site will be hard roof, driveway, hard areas that capture as stormwater. That can then be filtered and fed back to that house. So we've got a closed circuit, and that's what they're doing in countries like Switzerland. They're closing the circuit on these towns, and it's not expensive. It's no more expensive than dragging water halfway across the region from a well over there and then having to filter it anyway, you know. Like, so I think stormwater hasn't been managed well, and I think they haven't had a real eye on the future. So, yeah.
And notwithstanding your previous comment about Three Waters and the way it was communicated, where do you actually stand on Three Waters in principle?
Yeah, no, like I think that it would be a grave mistake for us to lose Three Waters. I understand that that there's always going to be some pain as you go forward with building infrastructure, developing infrastructure. Oh, we got Tasman's argument is we've got to actually build a great big septic tank, and that's really the guts of it. They've got to build a big septic tank. But the thing is, like water, for example, potted water in the region brings in $40 million a year in Tasman. So we bring in $40 million of income, and if it costs us $8 million to upgrade the Mapua system, and we're going to get another 100-year life cycle out of the Mapua system, we spend $8 million this year, and then we're going to get that 40 million return, and it's just business sense that as that 40 million comes in, as you get everything upgraded, and Richmond, in Tasman particularly, I can't speak for Nelson, in Tasman we've upgraded the Lower Queen Street filtration plants, but we've built and spent this enormous amount of money out the back for storing the water and feeding it back into Richmond. We've upgraded Mapua, we've upgraded Tapawera, I believe we've done upgrades in Brightwater, Wakefield, we've upgraded all over the region. We've got septic system upgrades happening. We've had an enormous amount of upgrade happening in Tasman, and once you complete that upgrade and you get 40 million out of water, let's say you get 40 million out of septic and you get 40 million out of stormwater, well, there's $120 million that you can actually put against rates. And like now, the ratepayers have got an asset that's earning them income that's subsidising the rates. If you take that out and give that to government, of course the government wants it. Of course they'd love to have those assets. It makes total sense. They just go and build a couple of things. And here's the interesting thing. Tasman knew this, and they said around the table, this is what's going to happen. And you're going to take that $40 million out and you're going to put it over there. And they said, okay, well, we'll solve it this way. What we'll do is when your region's up to speed, we'll give you a lot of the dividends back in payments. And so Tasman, oh, that's great, cool. But the region is Tasman, Nelson, Marlborough, Wellington, Napier, Gisborne. We're talking about when's that region going to be up to speed to a point where Tasman residents are going to be able to get some of the 40 million that they spend in a year on potable water back into the community to be offset against rates, because it'll be too busy upgrading the region, which is Wellington, we all know is $1 billion problem, and then going up the east coast. There's bound to be problems all the way up the east coast, and that's our region and it's our responsibility. So we'll just get all of that fixed up. And see, Auckland, interesting as I understand it, Auckland brings in Northland. So Aucklanders will be paying for Northland, as I understand it. So you've got a big centre paying to upgrade other areas. And I just don't think it benefits Tasman residents to give away our assets.
So you don't think in future, when that becomes more of a liability, it's something to look at that point in terms of spreading that cost?
I don't believe that it becomes a liability, because I believe that it's like ongoing maintenance. So I believe if you're earning $40 million a year out of your potable water and it costs you $10 million a year in maintenance, then you're banking $30 million. And once these systems, Mapua's been upgraded, the filtration system's been upgraded, the water tank's been upgraded, Tapware's been upgraded, Brightwater's had money, Wakefield's had money, the systems are in a pretty good state of repair. So if we don't have to spend any more money on those systems, and that's rapidly becoming the case with potable water, then that's $40 million that gets offset against rates. And of course the government wants our $40 million. And you don't do up the system in Mapua this year and then in 10 years you need to do up the system in Mapua again. You do up the system this year in Mapua, and hopefully they've done it, and I've been led to believe that it's at least a 50-year event. But the likelihood is that it could be 100 or 110, 120 years for that infrastructure to last. And so we get $40 million, you get all that done up now, you're not paying ongoing money, you get the benefit of all that income. And so that's why a lot of people are saying, the argument, if you've got a rental and it's got a leaking roof, we'll buy it off you really cheap and we'll fix the roof, and then we get the benefit of the rent forever. And that's pretty much what they're doing. We don't have a problem in Tasman, they've got a problem in Wellington. They want Tasman to pay for Wellington.
Yeah. I think you made that point really clearly. Just switching now slightly to, or not slightly, but switching to all of the development that's happening in Lower Queen Street is obviously putting a lot of pressure on the roading system. What do you think Council's role needs to be in helping to alleviate that?
I think Council's got a role to play for sure and certain. And I believe that, this should be tied in with the Council redevelopment of the buildings in Queen Street. So, you take the council chambers in Queen Street, and what you have is council workers. A lot of them live in Wakefield, Brightwater, they're employees of council, and they drive and they make their way down Gladstone Road, and they make their way and they get all the way through town, and they get to that site. And then when they get to that site, they stamp their timesheet, and then they drive out, because Tasman's all out there. So we've sort of got them right in the corner through all the traffic. So really what we need to do is we need to make the use of the capital value that we have there in Queen Street, however that's used, and then we need to go out and we need to build a building which is fitting of this region, which is kind of like a bit like the Collins buildings, timber, corrugated iron, like a pretty low cost building, but pretty classy and nice. A big spread out area with car parking, that becomes the Tasman District's centre of business, and then that services Tasman region, because they only come that far. Straight away, you've taken a big amount of traffic out, and when you restructure that, I think then at that same time we need to have a very straight railway line that goes from, say, Collins on the other side of the Appleby Strait, from that sort of location there, just goes straight into Richmond to the mall and back, and it goes every 7 minutes, and it's a park and ride, and we've got cars driving in there. We don't have to build a 300-mile train track around the region. Let's just build something that takes people from a park and ride car park into town. And if it's going every 5 minutes, people are just going to go, and they will use it. And all of those people come from, that site, that location on that side of Richmond, they come from everywhere to get into Richmond. So that's the first way that I would look at solving that problem there.
So you'd relocate the council building to somewhere else in the region and get people into Richmond more effectively.
Yeah.
Just sort of, I guess it's kind of related, but I'm going to jump to it anyway. Where do you stand on amalgamation with Nelson City Council?
Yeah, I believe that it should be done. I believe that, in Tasman region, we've got 394 or 396, depending on how the CEO is feeling on the day. Staff, of those 390 odd staff, we've got 80 staff earning over $100,000. That's disproportionately high. And then on top of that, we've got another 12 staff earning in excess of 200,000. So, we've got nearly $2 million of wages going out to 100 staff. It's quite phenomenal, really, and no private business would operate like that. And so you've got all of the staff at the top end. You've got an enormous amount of staff ratio-wise to work volume, and they're getting paid significantly higher than anyone else in the region. 80 staff at over 100 grand, that's phenomenal. And they're turning the work out slower than anyone. That's quite remarkable. And then if that's been replicated in Nelson, then both the Nelson and the Tasman residents are getting ripped off. Because, if what's happening there has been replicated there, and we've got another 80 staff in here that are on 100 plus thousand, and we've got another 10 staff on 200 plus thousand, then that's just ludicrous. And a basin like this basin where we're surrounded by the hills, it's just a big basin. So yes, we should amalgamate.
And what would you say to people who'd say, you haven't got any experience on council and you're going straight for the mayoralty? What would you say to people to say, give them confidence that you're still a person to vote for, not having had council experience? Yeah,
I think that as I said earlier, it's a business. Council is a business, and council has incomings and outgoings, and it has customers, the TDC residents. And the role of mayor has actually been lost in councils, and that's what I want to bring back more than anything, is the role of mayor and the role of councillors. And there's nothing that's more central to my decision to run for mayor than to reinstate the intention of a mayor and the intention of councillors. And that works like this. Everybody's told me, every time I've had a problem with a developer, I go to my councillor-elect, and then I go to my mayor, and they tell me we can't do anything because the CEO, and the CEO's in charge of the staff, and so we're hamstrung. And they put their hands up. And I'm like, I voted you in, paying you heaps of money, and you're telling me you can't do anything. The CEO's saying, nah, that's not the way it is. No, that's not how it works. And the CEO just tells the mayor no. And the mayor just comes running back. It's a cosy little relationship. The mayor's not there to tell the councillors what's going to happen so the councillors can tell the ratepayers what's going to happen. It should be the other way around. The ratepayers should tell the councillors what they want. The mayor should go and tell the CEO what's expected and what they want, and the CEO should work towards that. And if the CE can't deliver that, then the CE comes back to the mayor and explains to the mayor why they can't deliver that, and the mayor goes back and publicly explains it. And if the community's not happy with the explanation, and they put forward and they say, well, we're not happy and we need to know why it's taking more time, then the mayor needs to go back to the CE and say, what's going on? We're not happy with that answer. Not like go out and defend the CE. The idea is the mayor is there to represent the people, so therefore he's there he's not supposed to, or she, whoever may be the mayor, male or female, doesn't really matter, is not supposed to be in the council chamber sitting next to the CE, holding their hand while the CE runs the business of council. The CE runs the business of council, the mayor and the councillors. So the way that I'll have my council running is, if you've got a problem and you live in Tapawera, you'll go to your Tapawera councillor. You tell your Tapawera councillor what your problem is, your Tapawera councillor, and I'll make sure this happens, and if they don't, you can ring me. Your Tapawera councillor will fully investigate that, they'll pull everything together from your claim, and they'll treat it like you're right. And then once they've treated it like you're right and they've looked at everything, they'll come to me and they'll bring me in and they'll sit down and they'll say, this is what we've learnt, Mike, this is what it is, this is the person, this is where we're at, and I'll get a full, and then I will go and deal with it on behalf of like that person, you know, and every person in the region will have that level of service.
And so how would you describe your leadership style?
My leadership, incredibly inclusive, yep, and I believe that you employ people because they have skills. I don't have all the skills. So, you know, all of us is better than one of us. So, you know, the collective approach, I've run a lot of successful business, I've built a lot of successful businesses myself. All of the businesses and companies that I've owned have been successful, and I've been employed by large corporates internationally to build their teams, to help train how to build their teams. So I fully understand how to build a team, and the first part of understanding how to build a team is to realise that I can't do anything. Like, I'm not the man, I'm the orchestrator. So like, I need to empower you as a councillor to represent your community. So I need to encourage you, help you, train you, work with you, sit with you, and listen to what's concerning you, listen to what's not working for you. You know, you've got someone in your community that's giving you a hard time. Like, I need to listen to that. You need to feel supported. We need to get to that person. We need to sit down with that person. They're giving you a hard time because they're not being heard. That's more often than not why they're giving you a hard time. So you and I will go together, you see. So I'm there really, like, you know, the head councillor, kind of helping the councillors do their job, and then my job is to kind of almost headbutt with the CE. You know, I don't want to be clashing with the CE, but I'm there to ask the difficult questions from the CE on behalf of of the residents that would have put me in power. So
yeah, no, and in terms of you mentioned before about putting in a railway line. So I don't want to assume, but I'm assuming that then you would support investment in public transport. Is that something you see as important for the council?
I see astute investment in public transport. I'm concerned about this idea of just putting a bus on and saying everybody should jump on a bus, because I've seen the buses, and we put buses on and we put them on for free and they're empty. You know? So, like, I think it has to be done in a way which is consistent with the habits of the people. And you see, that's what, when we try to make change, and we're in a position of being able to, you know, a fortunate position of being able to make a change, and we decide what the change is, and we don't look how that connects with the community. And if it doesn't connect with the community, they won't do it. It's only going to be half a millimetre off, and they just won't do it. So you can put on 10 free buses, and if it doesn't fit in with their lifestyle, they'll take their car, you know. And I think that's the problem. I have no problem with putting buses on. I want to see buses go on where I'm convinced, you know, so it might be, the good example would be school. You know, the school puts a bus on at 3 o'clock because there's a heap of people to take away at 3 o'clock. You know what I mean? I want to see buses put on where there's a heap of people that want to be moved. I don't want to see buses put on so that we can tick the box and say, there we are, we're a green region and we put free buses on driving all around town empty, you know? Because
one of the issues we've seen, obviously, post-COVID is the difficulty for some employers, particularly in horticulture, to be able to get access to staff. And a lack of transport is often seen as a reason for that. So would you support investment in public transport to support the business community in that way?
It's really interesting to bring that up, Ali. As you know, my background, and we know each other from the years gone by when I was raised on an orchard. And you know, when I look at how the orcharding systems and the seasonal worked as a child growing up, you know, of an orcharding family, you know, my family provided on-site accommodation for their workers, and you know, it was okay within the council rules to provide on-site accommodation for your seasonal workers. And the seasonal workers in Nelson are different to a lot of seasonal workers, because we have seasonal work that runs, you know, consistently year round. So, you know, we attract seasonal workers into this region. We can actually offer them pretty much a full-time job, really. You know, like, it's just just shifting seasons. And so I believe that council's got a big role to play, but it's a very radical idea that I have for that. I believe that, you know, you take a community like in Mahana, and you might have 3 or 4 big orchards who are struggling to get the staff that they need, seasonal staff. They've got a common boundary by a road. They might take 2 hectares of that land. The council would work with them, help them create a subdivision of, say, 20 houses, and then have an on-site sewage system, so that's on-site, like Appleby Hills is doing it, Research Orchard Road, I've been involved with all of those at a concept and decide stage, and it's perfectly feasible. And then we offer those houses, and as the mayor, you know, you have the platform to go to ANZ or BNZ or someone and say, look, I want to talk to the CEO, I want to talk about getting this program off the ground where we get seasonal workers, we get good seasonal workers from around New Zealand who want to own a house. We've got them in this community here, they're living right in the middle of where they're going to be working, so that, you know, this is the seasonal areas. Like, you know, that to me, and the farmers, and as long as, and you give the farmers a break on their consents, so, you know, like they get opportunities to, and it has to be sold, and those people have to enter into a contract to stay and work in the seasonal industry for 10 years, and, you know, you set it all up. But I see that the farming community can solve their own problem that way, and like, and the flip side to that is the farming community can then pull, you know, they can all chuck in 2 hectares, build a little community, and then all pull in a couple hundred grand each site, you know, or 100 grand or whatever each site. So it gives them a capital injection to reinvest in infrastructure. So the farmers will be doing well. We'll be bringing in the right type of workers, you know, and they'll be families, and they'll be building those rural communities, rural schools out there where we need population, so that makes it worthwhile for rubbish and stuff. So, you know, I think we need to go back to, rather than council being the nanny state and they make every decision, they tell everybody what you can do, like being more of an inclusive community run enterprise where we look to everybody to provide solutions. And I'm not saying I'm off to build a village, you know, like I'm not, but this is, you know, this is the type of solutions that we need to consider.
And what do you think council's role is in economic development for the region? What do you think what tools levers should you pull?
Well, personally, in the Tasman district, I've got like a vision that we will really support green technology. So any companies that we want to go, I want to go out and target green technology companies. I want to target them, I want to invite them, I want to get them, like maybe we find industrial areas where we can get them, like, you know, get them opportunities to work in this region, and then give them opportunities to deploy green technology, maybe, you know, cutting edge technology that's not really proven yet, or, you know, different green technologies that they want to deploy and get known nationally and hopefully long-term internationally. Tasman as the region, you know, that is the innovation centre of the Southern Hemisphere for green technology. And we've got a region where over 66% of the region's in national park, and they're stunning national parks, world-beating national parks. And that's 66% of our region. Why wouldn't we want to become known as the people that grew and supported the green technology industry, you know, in Tasman?
That's the end of all my questions, but I'm just going to give you an opportunity in a nutshell to tell me, why should people vote for you?
I know what I'm capable of. All the business I've ever done, I know what I'm capable of. I know what I can do. United, then actually we can represent the region. We really can, as a team of councillors. And I've talked to lots of the councillors that are running for Tasman, old and new, and they are all running because they want it to be better for their community. They want it to be better. You know, they're not running because they've got some crazy ideas on what they want to do. They're like real estate agents. Most real estate agents want to do a good job. You know, some of them do a really bad job, but that's a very small percentage of them. But most want to do a good job, and most councillors want to do a really good job. And I think if we create an environment where they're supporting residents in their community, they will be doing what they came there to do. And at the moment, they're really despondent because they feel like they're just going out to their communities and telling their communities, this is what it is, this is what it is, this is what it is, you know, and they're feeling like disconnected. You'll notice lots of Tasman councillors, you know, just disappearing and new ones coming.
I think you summed it up really well. I think, you know, we're describing what you stand for, so that's great. Thank you so much for coming along today and doing this, and good luck with the campaign.